The movie opens with a man sitting silently in an empty room atop an old building, his eyes fixed on a hotel room across the street. This man is no ordinary person, he is a professional hitman known as the Killer.
If you're unable to endure boredom, work is not for you.
He had been waiting there for 2 full days, patiently enduring the silence for only one purpose, to execute a target who had yet to show up. Even so, time was running out, and the stomach could not be compromised. With no target in sight, the Killer finally decided to go downstairs and buy some food. However, his vigilance never slackened. Even when he was eating, he sat facing the window, his eyes on the hotel as he kept an eye out in case his target suddenly appeared. As he waited, a call came in from his boss, the person who had been giving him missions. Through a brief conversation, the boss informed him that the new target would most likely arrive in 2 days. In a calm tone, his boss suggested that the Killer use the time to relax first. The Killer accepted the suggestion and decided to unwind a bit. In the late afternoon, he returned to the empty building that had become his temporary headquarters. This time, he looked for the best position to execute the mission once the target appeared. It was known that during his career as a hitman, the Killer had never once failed to carry out his assignment. His reputation is no joke, he is meticulous, patient, and deadly.
Fireworks, breaking of glass.
That night, the Killer decides to exercise a bit and then get some sleep.
Might face torture.
Two days later, we see hotel staff preparing a room for the target. Noticing this, the Killer immediately prepares his rifle because the target will soon enter that hotel room. Not long after, the target arrives, who turns out to be an old man. Apparently, the old man is planning to hire an escort to meet him in that hotel room. The Killer takes aim at his target with his rifle. Unfortunately, the shot hits the escort instead.
Weakness is vulnerability. Empathy is weakness.
As a result, the old man's bodyguards quickly rush in to secure him. The Killer immediately tries to escape and disposes of all the evidence he brought. Once the situation is safe, the Killer heads to the airport to return to his hometown and hide for a while. Then, the Killer contacts his boss and reports that he missed the shot, so the mission failed. Hearing this, the boss is shocked, because this is the first time the Killer has ever failed a mission. The boss tells the Killer to take responsibility and not leave until he completes the job. However, the Killer refuses, as he has actually been planning to retire from this line of work. Hearing the Killer's refusal, the boss warns that he may regret that decision.
Well.
On the plane, the Killer notices someone who keeps staring at him. Even when the plane stops for a layover, that person continues to observe the Killer. The Killer decides to spend the night at a hotel to avoid the man, fearing that he might be an undercover cop. In the hotel room, the Killer sets up traps as a precaution in case the man tries to attack him. But in the morning, the man is gone, so the Killer continues his flight. Eventually, the Killer arrives in the Dominican Republic, the country where he was born and the place he uses as a hideout. The Killer rushes to his house to meet his wife. Upon arriving at the gate, the Killer notices footprints and cigarette butts, which make him panic, fearing something bad happened to his wife. Inside the house, the Killer is shocked to find the place trashed and bloodstains everywhere. However, he doesn't find his wife. So he heads to the nearest hospital. Sure enough, his wife is there in a coma, being watched over by her brother. The Killer asks his brother-in-law what happened. He explains that 2 people suddenly came to the house and beat up the Killer's wife until she fell into a coma. They arrived in a green taxi and then disappeared. Upon hearing this, the Killer vows to hunt them down to the ends of the earth and not let any of them survive. That same day, the killer returns home and digs up all the weapons he had buried. The next day, he visits a taxi terminal to find out more about the green taxis. However, because there are many green taxis, the killer becomes confused. He then decides to confront the boss who owns all the green taxis and demands to see all the routes from the day before. After some searching, the killer finds the taxi that had gone to his house and dropped off 2 passengers. He then collects detailed data on the taxi driver, who usually parks in the city center. The next day, the killer finds the green taxi and pretends to be a passenger.
And I didn't care how much the meter was taking.
During the trip, the killer pulls a gun on the driver and asks who the 2 people were that he had dropped off at his house. The driver swears he doesn't know who they were, as he's just a driver. However, he provides a description. One was a large man and the other a skinny woman with white hair. After getting the info, the killer kills the taxi driver without hesitation.
Pro aeroporto e eu levei eles. Fim da história. Eu não sei quem eles são e também não quero saber quem é você. Se eu sair do carro e deixar as chaves, eu vou sair.
A few hours later, the killer goes to the airport to fly to New Orleans to meet his boss. The killer suspects that the 2 who beat up his wife were sent by the boss, especially since the boss had threatened him before he left. Upon arriving, the killer rents a van to help carry out his plan. It turns out that the killer plans to sneak into the boss's office by posing as an AC technician. The next day, once everything is ready, the killer disguises himself as the AC repairman and easily enters the boss's office. He pulls a gun on the boss's assistant, Anna, and forces her into the boss's room. He then makes Anna tie the boss to a chair and also ties up Anna. The killer hides them both in the bathroom and starts interrogating his boss about who the 2 people were that attacked his wife.
Because I can't conceive of anything I have to offer that could male
The killer never imagined that his boss would do such a thing, especially after he had served him faithfully for decades. The boss says it was just a warning to the killer for disobeying orders. Hearing this, the killer becomes furious and does something brutal while saying, "Nothing that I wish you well."
In my wildest imagination did I think you'd actually go home.
You'll drown slowly, and I'll dispose of you.
There, Anna gives him all the details about the 2 attackers and also the name of the client who had ordered the killer to kill the old man at the start of the film. Once the killer has all the information, he makes it look like Anna accidentally fell down the stairs so her children can claim the insurance. Before that, the killer takes care of the boss's corpse. The next day, the killer travels to Florida, because Anna's data says one of the attackers, the man, lives there. Not long after, the killer arrives at the man's house and sees him with several henchmen. The killer also notices the man has a vicious pit bull. So he goes to the supermarket to buy ground beef and poison to take out the dog. That night, the killer returns with the poisoned meat and feeds it to the pit bull. Once the dog is neutralized, the killer enters the house through the back.
É você, não é? Olha, a maioria das pessoas.
The killer is then chased by another pit bull but manages to escape and blows up the man's house. The next day, the killer flies to New York to target the second attacker, a woman who had helped beat up his wife. Once in New York, the killer goes to the woman's address, which Anna had provided. That night, the killer sees the woman heading into the city and follows her. She enters a restaurant, and the killer confronts her.
He sees this grizzly. You know the deal.
Desperate for conversation.
Seeing him, the woman becomes terrified, knowing he's there to kill her. She pleads with him and even offers to share a meal before he kills her.
You will. Help a girl up, won't you?
After that, the killer flies to Paris to confront the final target, the client who ordered the hit on the old man at the beginning. When the client leaves, the killer sneaks into his apartment and photographs his room key. The next day, the killer uses the duplicate key to enter the apartment and holds the client at gunpoint, demanding to know why he had ordered his boss to harm his wife. The client swears he never gave that order and says he didn't even care that the killer failed his mission because he had already hired another hitman to kill the old man. He has now officially retired from being a hitman and chooses to live a normal life with his wife, who has fully recovered and is ready to start a new life with him. And with that, the film ends. If you enjoyed this video, don't be shy, hit the like button, and if you disliked it, hit the dislike button twice just to be sure. You should watch the full movie. Thank you very much for watching.